We still do 7 NUFC Matters show a week for free. But if you want to help support NUFC Matters, then there are a few ways of doing it. Hit the like button on each live broadcast and video. This helps the channel grow. Hit the subscribe button and select the all notifications bell so you don't miss a single show. If you want to help us financially, then you can join the channel using this button with the membership starting at $1.99 a month. Or you can drop us a donation in the chat using a super sticker. We're also looking for sponsors. If you'd like your brand advertised on the flyers for the show and featured during the ad break, then email John at nufcmatters.com to arrange today.
Just a question of taste with you, well, if you've gone sour, you want the world plus everything, but it won't work an hour. And now your questions are kept creeping and you go and buy our flowers. You throw away the dreams we had, boy, I won't allow it. I said we're gonna fall out, let's see you get out. I think we're gonna fall out, so shut your mouth.
Good evening, welcome to NUFC Matters. It is the professionals on a Sunday night, and it's welcome to Stu and to Mitch and to you. For the next 90 minutes, we'll be looking back on a wonderful point against Manchester City, and obviously talking about anything that you want to take us to in the chat. Lots of questions already coming in. Do our best, as always, to get through as plenty of them as possible. And great figures on Friday night. No surprise, Keith was back for another one of his appearances. And anyone who hasn't watched the Amigos on Friday, give it a watch. I think, especially from an hour in, second half of the show, where Keith did his best to give us it in layman's terms what the Manchester City case could or could not make moving forward. And I don't think there's anybody better than Keith really at explaining stuff like that, because he's been there, done it, got the T-shirt in business and in those kind of cases. And I think, if you want a bit of a layman's term understanding, give that part of the show, that 20-odd minutes, 25 minutes, a good watch. And of course, Mitch and Steve give their opinions, and George as well. So well worth a watch. Friday's Amigos. Thanks to everybody for tuning in. Okay, Stu, let's get back to yesterday's match. A 1-1 draw with Manchester City. Dare I say, Newcastle probably could have gone on to win that game. If fortune had been smiling and the penalty gods had perhaps given us, another penalty, we may well have won that 2-1. But yeah, I think, points shared. A draw was a fair result. Certainly Newcastle, deserved of that point. And Manchester City, thankful for the draw, was the kind of feedback we were getting from Pep Guardiola and the players. I think they knew they'd been in a game after yesterday's.
Definitely. But before that, Steve, I just want to give me thoughts on Darren Eales, because obviously the news broke on Friday and I didn't get an opportunity to say anything. So, and I think those who watch this show regularly will know I've been critical of his of the job he's done for the last few months, and I think it's been too big for him. And I still believe he was integral in ousting Amanda, but that's just my personal observation from the behind-the-scenes power play that was St James's Park in the summer. But that being said, it wasn't personal; it was just my observation, and my heart goes out to him. When I heard those dreaded words, when he heard those dreaded words, "You've got cancer." Those 3 words, it just shocks. It's a horrific, unforgiving disease that if it hasn't touched someone that you know and love, then you're a very, very fortunate person. But the thing is, it's not just Darren Eales that's affected by it. It's all contracted it. It's his wife, it's his children, it's his family, it's his friends, it's his work colleagues. They're also emotionally impacted, and sometimes they get left behind with the kind words that are being passed, and I can relate to that on a personal level. And I wish him and his family and friends every bit of strength and good fortune in the battle ahead. And I wish him a speedy recovery. So I just wanted to get that out of the way before we started talking about
Well said, mate. Well said. Thank you, mate.
But yesterday's game, it was one of those where, you know, the harder you work, the luckier you get. And it was, I know Eddie Howe hasn't even been here 3 years, but it was an old school Eddie Howe Newcastle United performance, wasn't it? Where they rolled the sleeves up and from the off, they were at it. You know, they were biting to challenges, they were chasing the keeper down. And even with the knowledge that Isaac wasn't playing, they went man for man. And I thought there was fantastic performances all over the pitch. I thought it's hard to single people out, but I will. I thought Dan Burn was a colossus. I thought Lewis Hall was outstanding. I thought the three guys in midfield never give an inch. And the work rate from the three up front, they had varying degrees of success, but the work rate that they did, the willingness to do the runs from the balls or getting pumped down the channels, it was one of those things that we got used to. And I think last week, I said in my little short I did yesterday morning for you, Steve, that the Fulham game might have been the punch on the nose that the team required, where they can't just skate through games and get results. It was like, no, we do have to roll our sleeves up. We do have to show what we're about. And they did that in spades yesterday. And any point against Man City is a point gained. There's no doubt they are the best team on the planet. And you're right, they left yesterday. I think they were grateful for a draw. You know, there was a chance for Longstaff near the end, which I wish he'd scored, because when he came on, I had a fiver on him at 40-1 to score the next goal. Joe Linton had an opportunity. There should have been another penalty. And this isn't me building up to the 3-1, but there genuinely should have been. And had it not been so quick after the penalty that was given, I think every day of the week that was a penalty. And I believe the officiate has bottled it.
I've got opinions on that myself, mate, yeah.
I honestly think that they bottled it. But when the team left the pitch, I know you were there, Steve, and I know a lot of people that go to the games. You know, there was an immense sense of pride that, like, we've got our team back, and that's the Newcastle that we want to see. And if they use the same work ethic and believe in the class that they've got, there's no doubt whatsoever that we're in a very good position. Let's get Tuesday out the way, which hopefully should be a comfortable victory, and then take the game to Everton and go into the international break in a very good position. And like I said, it takes us a step closer to the likes of Botman coming back, but soon Isaac will return. But now there is a belief amongst the team, and whatever was said during the week worked, and we're always proud to support Newcastle, aren't we? But when that game finished yesterday, you know, I was getting messages from Arsenal fans, from Liverpool fans, from West Ham fans, all saying, "Yous were great, yous deserve to win it." And it's great to hear that Newcastle deserve to win against the team that everyone holds in the highest of regards. You know, they are the benchmark, and we really could have and possibly should have beat them. But I think a draw and the performance, for me, was more than enough, more than what most people expected. And it was fantastic to watch, and well played to every single person who got on that pitch in the black and white strip, and to the coach and stuff.
Mitch, a point in the bag against Manchester City, and a much better performance than the previous week.
Absolutely, mate. And just the performance we needed to show that everything's back together. I'm just noticing how big these bloody bags under my eyes are. I've had a early weekend. On Friday night, I was at my mate B. She's back over from Germany. That's where I did Amigos from. I left there at 4 in the morning. And then yesterday we did the all-day brunch at UBK for the match. And then went up to Chelsea Robs in the evening for a barbecue, and that was full of mad Uzbeks, and I was partying with them till 4 o'clock this morning. So apologies if I'm a little slow today. Look, that was a superb performance. And even had we not picked the point up, you could say that performance was enough to see that there's a hell of a lot more coming. They're getting their act together. I think having that full week with the match postponed has done them a lot of good. He was able to get everybody together on the training field. There's obviously a little bit of galvanisation of the camp and getting everybody together and the back of Darren Eales' news, no doubt. And there's loads of reasons to point to see why we did so much better. Technically, I thought Eddie was quite astute. My man of the match was Joe Linton. He seemed to be everywhere. And if you look carefully, going back in the game, I watched the game back this afternoon. Joe Linton's often dropping in to make that back four a back five, and what that did was close the lanes down that Man City loved to use to attack. And it forced them to go wide. It forced them to basically go one-on-one with the full-backs. And they couldn't find the space in between the centre-backs and the full-backs because of the way Eddie had them playing. But it was a positive back five, not a negative back five. Everybody, when they hear back five, thinks, oh, you're parking the bus. No, what it was doing was cutting the space away that Man City usually use. Very, very clever. And I think the reaction from the players, I loved the way that Tonali and Trippier between them got under Grealish's skin a little bit. And when I come to the officials, I've got big opinions on this. I've seen paid journalists, people who write sports journalism for a living, say it would have been brave to give a second penalty. Why would that have been brave? It would have been correct. The foul on Joe Linton for me was more of a penalty than the one on Gordon.
Was?
There's no bravery there. And if it means you've got to be brave to fear the wrath of Pep, that's bullshit. And everything that's wrong about modern officiating. Another thing, that elbow from Grealish on Tonali had more aggressive intent than the stupid nonsense between Shea and Brereton Diaz. And had somebody, again, applied the rules in the same way, surely Grealish would have been close to walking. Yes, Tonali made more of it than he could have done, but Italian players have been doing that for time immemorial. At the end of the day, when you see that incident compared to Shea's sending off, when you see the second penalty compared to the first penalty, what's brave about giving those decisions other than that you might upset Pep? It's bullshit to call that brave. What you should be calling out is weak officiating and inconsistent officiating. Not that I'm saying we're being robbed, etc., etc. Even if we were sat having not picked the point and lost that game, that performance was enough to buoy me up to say, right, things are coming together, things are working out. He's got that team firing a little differently. I think Murphy did enough to show why he's put in terms of his athleticism more than anything else. I suspect he'd been told before the game to get his crosses in early because he had two opportunities to do it, a hell of a lot more than he did when he got wide right. And one, he could have taken the ball on himself a lot further, but he was insistent on playing that early ball, and that was obviously working on instruction. And I think, Gordon, that was the celebration of a man who isn't going anywhere. And I think his interview that I've seen with BT Sport before the game, where they talk about it, and they talk about the war flags display on the East Stand, I think you read into his body language and hear in his language and see the smile on his face. I think that goal's going to do him and us and everybody the world of good. And I see what he brings when he plays as a central striker, and it's just mobility. It's a different type of thing that what Isaac brings, and different to Callum Wilson, but it's a mobility thing, and he pulls centre backs into places that they don't like to go, and that creates chances. And I think cracking game for the neutral. I think if you wanted a game that said a lot about the Premier League, that was the game to make people watch. But great day yesterday all round, and a great match, great performance, and we'll move on with a bit more of a spring in my step this weekend.
Certainly do. Manchester United got a problem now at Old Trafford. Bruno Fernandes sent off straight red card for a kamikaze tackle on James Maddison, and they are currently 1-0 down. Brennan Johnson with the goal. Old Trafford making it Manchester United 0, Tottenham 1. 5 minutes left in the first half. You mentioned the early start and the Anthony Gordon display by War Flags, Mitch. So I'll let you continue on that. Just Mark Patterson put a message in earlier, just saying, "Hi Steve, sorry for the early message. Just wanted to mention War Flags display ahead of the show. I thought it was fantastic, great timing. Tyne Anthony Gordon down to a new long-term deal. It's great business by the club. Keep up the good work, lads. The show is class every week." Thank you very much, Mark. Yeah, I mean that is great news, isn't it? I mean, Anthony Gordon thing, it's not, I wouldn't say it's come out of the blue. It's just, it's been obviously working. They've been working away on this in the background, but I think the timing of it was special. And I've seen Anthony Gordon's interview with NUFC TV afterwards, and he says, I've got family in the stadium, and he says that was a very proud moment. He says I had tears. He said I had tears in my eyes before the kickoff. And he says the adrenaline was really going. So, I mean, it certainly had a massive effect, and well done to War Flags for sorting that out.
Yeah, it was very thoughtful, and it's been quite clear that he was riding the crest of a wave all last summer, and his confidence was sky high, wasn't it? And then all that happened with England, and then the rumours, was he getting sold? Was it us that initiated it? Was it Liverpool making a request? Sensibly, it was obvious that Newcastle didn't want to sell him. If they had to, they would have been a very reluctant seller. But that's passed. But I think emotionally or mentally, he was scarred with the treatment received from Southgate, and he needed a cuddle, and he needed to feel loved again. And the fact that when he come out of that state, he knew it was there, because obviously when you go in, you can see the cards on the seats and everything else. But to go out in front of a full house, playing around the world, and your numbers there, your name's there, and everyone was showing the love for him, and yes, the contract talks are close, and this is something that we've been crying out for, not just on this show, but across your platform, Steve. We needed some good news. We needed someone like Gordon and Isaac, and well, we know Bruno already has, so is Joe Linton, but the star players to commit themselves to Newcastle long term. And I think if he was like, yeah, it looks good, and he was still a little bit of doubt in the back of his mind, I think yesterday solidified the fact that he will be a Newcastle player for the long term. And that's great news for us. And I still take it back to Fulham, because it wasn't just him, but because we know how good he is. Same with Bruno, they seem to get singled out for the criticism, but that's the same. We've seen it years and years ago. You go back 30 years, and if Gascoigne had an average game, he seemed to be poor because his levels are that much higher than his teammates. But yesterday was a great team performance, and everyone played their part. And for Anthony Gordon, it was a special day, and I think it was only right that he got the goal that got us to the point. It's a shame we didn't get the win, but now the team together, and I know Mitch has mentioned Grealish, and I nearly interrupted and said, I really don't like Grealish. I know he's done a lot of work charity-wise, like through his sister and stuff like that, and that's commendable. But as a person, his attitude and some of the things he's done off the pitch, I really don't rate him at all. For me, he's up there with the most disliked players in the league, including the guy who's just been sent off. And so it couldn't happen to a nicer person. And he should have been sent off. And as Mitch said, if the refs looked at it in isolation, he swung his elbow, the intent was there. Whether he hit him or not, it doesn't matter. Whether he hit his shoulder, whether he hit his arm, whether he hit his nose, the intention was there. It just shows it's a shame, because it's one of those, it's a blight on the current football. It's the egos, isn't it? It's the prima donna attitude, like, you can't tackle me, you can't do this because I'm this person and I'm worth this much and I get paid this much. It's 11 versus 11. And what I thought Newcastle did very well yesterday with the team selection was that we knew that the possession-wise, the majority of it would go to Manchester City. Yet, to be fair, they didn't have as much as I think the majority of people would have expected. But it was imperative for us that we had players who were comfortable on the ball, and the ball retention for us and the use of the ball was important. So that's why we needed the players who can control it better, who can pass it better. And I think everyone knows I'm a huge advocate of Tino Livramento, but for me yesterday it was absolutely the right call to have Kieran Trippier starting, simply because he can see the pass, he can control it under pressure, and Tonali showed the type of player that we know he is, and we hope to see on a more regular basis for Newcastle United. So all in all, it was a good day's work. But most importantly, when it's officially announced that Anthony Gordon signed that contract, you know, it's another step in the right direction. It's another tick in the good news box, and that's something that we've been craving for since that transfer window closed very meekly. So hopefully we can get 2 good results in this coming week, and we'll go into the international break ready to thrash Brighton at home, where, as you know, Steve, I'll be there, possibly sitting right next to you.
Yeah, fingers crossed. Mitch, the Anthony Gordon contract's yet to be formally announced, but it's just a matter of time, I think. And I mean, Joe Linton, of course, was tied down. Talk, of course, of Alexander Isak as well, having an extension to his deal. It seems that Newcastle are focused on keeping the blue chip players. They need to get Europe, I think, to make sure that they do stay, because I think we all know contracts sometimes aren't worth the paper they're written on. But it's great to see the likes of Gordon committing to the club.
Yeah, and very willing and seemingly excited to commit to the club, and I think that's the important bit. It's not just going through the motions and securing themselves, ways out and securing themselves wage rises and things going forward. In the interviews I've seen, Gordon seems genuinely excited to stay at a club that he sees as essential as part of his development going forward, and I think that's really important. I think there's a number of players there that deserve mentions for the way they picked up their performances, and I think there's a number of players going forward that we will want to be tying down on the longer term contracts. But as you say, going forward, Europe is going to be an essential part of keeping and developing that squad, and so it's keeping them keen, not let them get into a comfort zone, whilst also rewarding what they've done so far. It's finding a really delicate balance, but so far they seem to be doing that quite well. I think another thing out of yesterday that was evident to me was we've got Erling Haaland's number. He's a playground bully. When you stand up, when you kick him back, when you punch him on the nose, he doesn't like it, and he starts to whinge and has a few moments and disappears. And Lascelles did that to him a couple of times last season, and it was Dan Burn yesterday. And I think we've got to mention that. And I think that again, he's somebody that the media big up and talk about. He's this and he's that, but in cricketing terms, he's a flat track bully. Once he's got to think around the problem, once it doesn't go his way, and people don't sort of immediately worship the ground he walks on and are prepared to stand up to him, he seems to disappear a little bit. So for me, and this will come into the factor into when you look at the squad going forward, is who knows how to handle certain players and certain ways that teams plays, and who can we keep around to pass that experience on to younger players coming through. It's all part of something that really we've not done for many years, and certainly was never done under Ashley, which was squad management. We haven't managed squads well, and haven't thought about succession planning, and haven't thought about the future. It's just been for the now and keeping things ticking over. Whereas now we're in a position where we can really genuinely plan, and hopefully we've got people in place that can, formulate that plan properly going forward.
Yeah, hope so. Man of the match, difficult one. Man of the match is difficult, Stu. I guess lots of people struggling to pick out one particular person. Lewis Hall has obviously been, mentioned. Livramento. Denise says struggle to pick my man of the match because the whole team showed up. I do give a shout out to Hall, Gordon, Tonali, Byrne, Pope, Byrne. List goes on. Although I also thought Joe Linton even more of a pen. Gordon's, which was a pen. But yeah, I mean, man of the match. Could you pick one?
I think the team should get man of the match if you could do such a thing. But I think I said at the top of the show, for me, I thought Lewis Hall was outstanding. I thought it was a very mature display, and you could see that they were well drilled and they followed the instructions to the letter. And I would say Lewis Hall, but again, Dan Burn, I thought, as Mitch has just referred to there, the way he marshalled Haaland. Haaland is an exceptional talent. Let's not get away from it. And I get the sentiment that he's a flat track bully, because if you look, yes, he scored against Arsenal last week, but it's very rare he scores against the big teams in the later stages of competitions. You know, and especially in Europe, you know, he doesn't score in the finals or the semis or even the quarters. So once he's up against the higher graded defenders, but the same was mentioned about Messi, wasn't it? Like Messi was a flat track bully at the Nou Camp, but yeah, I mean, he's probably the best player that's ever put a pair of football boots on. So I think we have to give credit to Dan Burn, who physically, I think he thrived on the toe-to-toe thing with him, and he wasn't going to give him an inch. And the beauty that we've got now, even though there was a lack of incomings in the summer transfer-wise, we've got a couple of injuries up front in the same position and a couple of defenders missing, but generally we've got a stronger squad to pick from. And that then goes to something that I alluded to last week, where Eddie Howe can go horses for courses, and he can pick the right team to match the opposition rather than the team picking itself because they're the last 11 standing. You can then say, right, this is how this team plays. They've got that on that wing, right? So I can combat that with this person. And the key is to getting the synergy again with the squad, where they all feel part of the team, whether they're playing or not. They all know that they've got an important role to play, and they'll all get minutes. Because even if you're flip-flopping if they both stay the full season with the two right backs, with Livramento and with Trippier, they're not. It's very rare both of them are going to play the full 90 minutes if the other one's sitting on the bench. You know, so in total they'll both feature in 30+ games each. You know, and that's good for managing Trippier's minutes as he's come to the twilight of his career, but it's also good for Livramento, so he's not being overworked. And the same can be said for Hall on that side as well. And I think long term they'll bring Target in to rotate with him before they use. I forgot his name now. The lad from Bournemouth, Lloyd Kelly. So this is the advantages that we've got. And although everyone says we've got loads of depth in midfield, all 5 were involved yesterday. You know, because Miley's injured. We've only got 6 midfielders. We don't really have that much depth. But when everyone's fit, what we've got is quality. And I think yesterday the 3 that were picked would have been everyone's favourite, at least the vast majority of people's favourite 3 or preferred 3. But what they did yesterday was show that they can play as a 3. And they all knew, okay, if you're going, I'm going to stay. And if you two are good, I'm definitely staying. And that, for me, is a work in progress that will only get better. And it was great to watch, because they all have the different attributes, but all 3 of them individually have high quality talent. And it was good to see. I know Bruno sometimes get a bit rash, and it was nailed on. He was going to get a yellow card yesterday because he had a point to prove, and he wasn't going to stand out anyone yesterday. So for me, it was obvious he was going to get yellow carded. But I thought Tonali was very composed, and he could have reacted worse with Grealish, and he didn't, twice. And if you look at the squad in general, Steve, we are in a good place. Yes, we're not as good as we should be. And I was going to say it could have been, but we should have had at least 2 more additions in the summer, but we didn't. But now I think, look at Fulham last week, it's galvanised them. We're in this together till January, and bringing in Murphy, I thought that was a masterstroke, because you were playing someone in the right position. You weren't playing 2 people out of position, just to accommodate the players. And I think long term, although Barnes had a quiet game, he went through a lot of work. He probably ran more yards yesterday than he's done any game for us since he joined. And a lot of his work was unseen, but it was there. He was back to help out Hall. He was always available, and he was a willing runner for the release ball down the channels and onto the wing. So I think every single person who come off that pitch yesterday can hold their head high, and they contributed, including the substitutes, like the Willocks and the Tinos and the Longstaffs. They all played their part, and that can only be good for the team. You can imagine that change room yesterday. That feeling when they got in there would have been probably worth more to them after how we've started the season than any victory we've had this season. It shows that they are good. It reminds them of how good they are and how good they can be and what levels they're capable of achieving. So there you go. You put the work in, you work like that, and you'll get the results. And we should reap the benefits as supporters.
Well said. John Melrose, you're right. There was a lot of Adidas Originals gear in town yesterday. He says the cost of living crisis is worsening due to the amount we're blowing on this clubber. Yeah, you're not wrong. Yeah, Mitch, man of the match. Difficult, isn't it, to pick one?
Very difficult, but I'd still stand by what I said at the start. Joe Linton for me. He covered nearly every blade of grass. He was back at a Joe Linton that we should have, not the one that was powder puff and at times absent and appalling with his passing in the first few games that we've had. That was more the kind of display I would like to see from him. I think he closed certain avenues down from Man City's attack, but then also had the ability to get forward and create problems at the other end. Again, going down to creating what should have been a second penalty. And so I think I'd stick with Joe Linton, but you're right, they have plenty of honourable mentions when everybody else. It was genuinely a proper team performance and just what we needed at just the right time.
Yeah, certainly was. Lots of people criticising Grealish, for his elbows and various other antics he was on. I got the impression yesterday that Grealish was given the opportunity or told by Pep to go and try and wind somebody up. He almost got a bite with Shaw again, at one point, Stu. I'm not sure whether the TV covered that.
Very maturely, Trippier stepped in, didn't he? And just pushed him away. Just at that time, but he thrives on being the pantomime villain. But he didn't thrive on the fact he wasn't getting all the backing off the referees he normally gets wearing the sky blue shirt. And the referee wasn't going to just roll over and say, yes, Jack, you're right. Yes, Jack, you get this. And it's the slyness, it's the dirty little digs, the elbows and stuff like that. And if you cough near him, apparently someone opened a crisp packet in the East Stand and he fell over. He's one of those that will just hit the ground very, very quickly, but he likes to dish it out. And for me, we've all played football at various levels. You don't like that in your team, never mind the opposition. And for me, he's a talent that's been wasted because he's more about his ego, and that's a shame. But if you looked at if you could pick him or Anthony Gordon to be in your team, not just for the individual ability, but for the attitude and what they bring to the squad in general, I think Anthony Gordon wins 10 times out of 10. And I'm grateful that we've got him, and he's just about to commit long term to us.
Yeah, it was great to see that, and a good performance all around. So well done, Newcastle, and got to take it into next week now. It's got to be a regular thing. That's it. Okay, plenty of questions coming in from different people. Lee Jones, good evening. He says, question for Stu and Mitch: if we struggle next summer with selling fringe players, would you consider selling one of the crown jewels to finance the rebuild in the areas that we need to address in the squad? Not a question we've had in recent weeks, but we've had it before, Mitch. And we're busy trying to secure players, aren't we? Not let them go, I guess.
And we were faced with that possibility with the mad scramble in June. So there's always going to be that lurking in the background. But at the minute, because we've had a bad year for PSR drop off, and we're going forward with what will hopefully be another good one, that's less of a pressure in the next window. I think the time and even in the summer window, I think that's less of a pressure. I think the time that might become a pressure would be if we didn't qualify for Europe and then going forward to the window after that. That's when we might have to consider, do one of the crown jewels go? I don't think it's an immediate PSR problem, but it could be if things don't go our way. Also, we still don't know what differences are going to be made on the back of any potential associated party transaction situations that may change the scope for us commercially overnight. We just don't know how that's going to work out yet. And so there's a number of unknowns in there that I think we genuinely just have to be patient about and just let it play out.
Yeah, I like I've just said to Mitch, Stu, we're trying to keep a hold of players, aren't we? At the moment, we're not looking to let players go, and we want to build. you know, from our perspective, failure to get Europe this season, you know, might make a decision for a player. A player may want to leave. He may want to chase European football. But I think we're looking at the positives. I think, you know, Newcastle have got off to a good start despite not playing particularly well. Yesterday, though, was certainly maybe a turn in our fortunes as far as performances are concerned. But, you know, we want to keep a hold of players, don't we? We don't really want to be looking at selling big players. We're trying to tie them down.
Yeah, you've just meatloafed us there. You took the words right out of my mouth. The simple thing is, we've said it for so long, and it's common sense, and that's it. It's no big secret. It's common sense. To get better, you need to keep your best players and add to them. You know, that's obvious. But what you've just touched on there, Steve, is the most important thing is where we finish in the league. If we're in the Champions League, I don't think we have to even worry about people leaving. You know, if you look at the star players that we've got, not just the star players, the whole squad, I think yesterday proved they're emotionally invested in the betterment of Newcastle and being part of it. And I don't think anyone wants to leave. Even Miggy showed that, you know, and you can see how sparingly he's been used this year. That's their way of saying, look, you hang around if you want. You're a nice kid. You run around a lot and you smile, but you're going to be number 3 for us. And even when number 1 and 2 is not fit, we'll play a left wing on the right wing. But he still wants to be part of the squad, and he plays a role in it. So there's not many people wanting to leave Newcastle, you know. And I know a lot of people, especially on social media, they'll give someone like Sean Longstaff very much undeserved abuse. But you could actually genuinely see him being heartbroken if he was asked to leave. You know, in tears. And this is what, not that you want him to be in tears, but what you want is the people wanting to stay at the club and bringing people in. And I know we've talked about it before, Steve, but if you're a player on the outside looking in and you can see the togetherness, you can see the camaraderie, you can see the willingness to fight for each other. But when you get probably the most respected coach in the world lauding us with praise yesterday in his interview, Pep Guardiola, and, you know, players think, I want to be part of that. You know, so I think the devil's in the detail. And if we finish in the top 5 or 6 next season, we've got Europa League at worst, Champions League at best, then I don't think we've got any worries about losing the star players, because they want to have another crack at the Champions League. The ones that were there last season enjoyed those special nights, especially the PSG one, especially the first game away to Milan, you know, when the music got cranked up and stuff like that. So for me, I don't see it as an issue. But if we finish like 7th or 8th again this season that we're in, then you'd have to expect it. But also as fans, we get emotionally invested. That's our job, isn't it? You know, we love the club for better, for worse, and for a lot of the years we've supported them, it's been the worse rather than the better. But when it comes to the end of the season, who do you really want to be playing for you? Of course, we want the best players, and the best players, we need them to stay. But can you genuinely think that if we say the top 4 or 5, which is often referred to, such as your Isaacs, your Brunos, Joe Lintons, Tonali's, even Botman, who seems to be getting forgot, do you honestly think that they will still, all 5, 6 of these will still be at Newcastle in 4 or 5 years' time? There's someone at my door, but I'm not getting it. So 4 or 5 years' time, they're not all. So yes, there will be people leaving, but we need to be on our terms, not because they're not good. It's because we've got someone better to take their place, and that's how we evolve. And if we get a midfielder that's better than Bruno, or a winger that's better than Gordon, or a centre half that's better than Botman, so be it. You know, but until then, we need to keep these people, because these are the ones that will make us the best as what we can be. And I still genuinely believe that we're more than capable of getting Champions League qualification. And I said the same last week after the Fulham thing. We've got a team of players that just had to start believing themselves. And yesterday they did that. And this should be the springboard for a very good season remaining.
2-0 to Spurs. Kulevski has got the second goal. Brennan Johnson with an assist to go with his goal. 2-0 at the Theatre of Screams, as Alan calls it. And yes, it's great to see this performance by Spurs today. Ian says, question for the lads. Mitch, what would you rate Eddie and Pep's bromance out of 10 at? They've certainly got a bromance. They do have, I mean, Pep is very sparing with praise for people. Doesn't suffer fools gladly, but certainly seems to have a soft spot for Eddie. And that's, win, lose, or draw. And we've done all of those things against Pep's Man City with Eddie in charge. Ultimately, he does seem to respect him.
And something that Mikel Arteta could learn: respect is earned, not given. And it's as simple as that. Game recognises game. Pep knows. Pep knows when he comes up against one of Eddie's teams, he's going to be given a game. We're going to do everything that we can to win the game in our power. Yes, we'll push the edge of skullduggery and shithousery sometimes, but so did Man City. But the ability to then shake hands and come off the pitch and say, hey, well played, at the end of it all, that's respect, and you earn that. And it's as simple as that. He's earned Pep's respect.
Yeah, I was going to say there, Mitch, is he was wholesome in his prayers, but when I was listening to it, I thought, yeah, it's really nice to hear. But for me, it seemed to be more a dig at others, whether not just Arteta, but even back at Klopp, who want to complain about what's went wrong. He could have said, oh, we weren't this, and they were very physical, etc. But he was wholesome in his prayers at Newcastle. And I did take it as a dig at others, but also deflected an inquest about why the great Manchester City didn't roll Newcastle over after what happened last week. Exactly. It also deflects from the fact that they haven't won for 2 games in the league now, which is very, very unusual for them. So I haven't checked the fixtures, but I pity whoever they've got next. But it's nice. It could be the associated party transfers, brothers in arms act and stuff like that. But I think genuinely, what he said about Eddie Howe was right. He does conduct himself well. He's always every press conference, he's going to say, yes, they're a very good side and the manager's done a great job. He's always praising the opposition and he carries himself with dignity. And I think Pep Guardiola admires those attributes in Eddie Howe, and it was fantastic that he said it's on yesterday's game was on a global stage, because the time of it, there was people waking up to it stateside and there was people out at night in the Far East. Now we were in the Middle East. It was lunchtime, mid-afternoon for us, lunchtime for the UK. It probably got more viewing figures than what you'd get for an evening kickoff. And for him to come out, credit to the man and credit for what he said about Eddie Howe, but you have to look deeper into the reasons why he said it. But what he said was absolutely correct.
Yes, certainly was. Melly Barnes is the Manchester United fan who comes on. Yeah, quite a. Yeah, you keep dipping off, Stu. That's why I interrupted. I thought you'd stopped. See it for. It's Melly Barnes who comes on the show. He's from Ashton, and he will be coming back on the show. I did jump onto the Man United podcast with him a couple of weeks ago. I just keep saying to him, mind the gap. That's all I say to him whenever I go on there. So that's as simple as that. Okay, we're going halfway through the show. We'll go and let Stu answer his door. It's time for the ads.
A big thanks to all our sponsors, Skips and Bins. You can find them at skipsandbins.com. Contact them, www.skipsandbins.com/contact. Say hello to low-cost waste disposal with pay-as-you-go and contract waste management. A big thanks to Mr. Vicky's Sauces, handmade in Cumbria. Their website, mrvickies.co.uk. Telephone 01768 210 102. Or email info@mrvickies.co.uk. Thanks to our NUFC Matters fanzine sponsor, United Group Travel. Travel and Tourism Award winners 2024. There are no strangers on our tours, just friends you haven't met yet. All excursions included, 3-star plus quality hotels, no interchanges, a 2-crew driver and courier. It's a local family company, and you can find them at www.unitedgrouptravel.com or telephone 01670 632 460 or mobile 0791 666 4174. Big thanks to Media Arts for all the help with the technical side of things. And if you want to help support the channel, hit the subscribe button. We do 7 shows a week. Hit the thumb up under the video. That's the like button. It does help us grow. And click the share button. Help share to your social media. If you want to join the channel for as little as $1.99 a month, then hit the join button under this video today. We also help the food bank on this channel. Visit nufcfansfoodbank.co.uk. It takes you to the match day bucket where you can donate some money virtually. Some events for your diary in aid of Dementia Matters. The Long Sands will be reforming and be supported by Lilac Lane and the Chris Norris Band at the Cluny in Newcastle on Saturday, January the 4th, 2025. Tickets are £15 pre-sale from newcastlelegends.com. An evening with Peter Beardsley takes place at the Tyneside Irish Centre on the 10th of January 2025. Tickets available from newcastlelegends.com or from Woucher. And an evening with the Entertainers takes place on the 24th of January 2025. Telephone the box office 0844 249 1000 or visit the website tynetheatreandoperahouse.uk. And the Magpie Lounge at Gateshead Leisure Centre is now open. 7 tokens for £99. Joe Allen will be hosting tokens with Lee Clark, John Anderson, Steve Howie, Darren Peacock, Supermac, Steve Watson, John Beresford, all between the dates of January and July. £99 for 7 tokens, newcastlelegends.com. And don't forget, you can subscribe to our NUFC Matters fanzine, £20 for 4 issues with all proceeds going to Dementia Matters. If you live overseas, it is £50 for 4 issues. To order now, go to newcastlelegends.com.
Only 3 subscriptions left for the fanzine, so if you are hanging back, please don't, because it's going to sell out and we aren't doing any more. So it'll be 200 and that's it. Obviously, you'll get an opportunity next year to beat the rush, I guess, and subscribe again. But yeah, for the 4 issues this year, 3 left. We are going to push this now for the next few weeks. We would like to sell 200 of these books in advance of the release date, which is the 30th of November. The book has been finalized now. Photographs getting selected and put in. The photos have come from the former club photographer, which is great. And the book is wonderful. The Entertainers, 1992, 1997, Kevin Keegan's Legacy, written by Will Scott. Some wonderful interviews in there. Over 30 interviews with people involved with that period at the club. And a great opportunity for Newcastle fans to look back and retrospect what was a wonderful, wonderful period in our club's history. The book is $13.99 and it is available from newcastlelegends.com. If you go to the website and order it, and the great news is that Will Scott, the guy who has written the book, has agreed to give a £5 now from each of the books. So if we can do 200 of that, that's another £1,000 going to the Dementia Centre, which is absolutely brilliant. So let's get that book sold. If the same people who pitched in for the fanzine do it, then so be it. But it would be nice to see a few other names and faces committing to the cause. Please do that. And don't forget as well, if you fancy an event and a night out, the Derek Wright night, 15th of November, Tyneside Irish Club. Tickets are £22 for that. That includes a signed copy of the book from Derek. Joe Allen's going to be asking the questions on the night, and all proceeds from that night are going to 50-50 going to Derek's charity and to the Dementia Matters charity. So that's, again, newcastlelegends.com if you want to buy tickets for that event on the 15th of November. And that is International Weekend, just in case anybody was thinking, oh, well, is there a game on that weekend? No, it is International Weekend. That's the reason it has been picked. Just a couple of comments from people in the chat. Yeah, Melly is a good crack, to be fair, Steve. Always enjoy these shows, different perspective, especially when we got a result against them. Yeah, Talking Turf is his YouTube page. If you want to go on there, he often talks about other things, and certainly be foreman tonight after this. He does go home and away and has done for 30 years with Manchester United from Ashington. There's a bus full of them, 50 odd of them go from Ashington every home game, so they'll have a slow journey back tonight, I think. And Chris, yeah, it was good to see Greg Norman there yesterday at the match. He was in attendance because of the Live card golf. We did get told he was there, but the great shark, or the white shark, I think that's what his nickname used to be. And CA4 says, isn't it typical that our next game is Everton away when they've just won their first game? I hate going to Goodison. I'm pleased they beat greedy Parish's Palace yesterday. Yeah, I'm just happy they got their first win. I'd rather have been a bit more pensive going there had they not won, and we were waiting around the corner. The Anthony Gordon derby next week. I think Newcastle can do rather well in that next week. I think they will keep the momentum going. That's for certain. Okay, we did have some other questions earlier on, so let's get to that. John just says, afternoon everyone, good performance yesterday. Are you confident we can show the same commitment and quality away from home? Goodison next week might offer an indication. Any thoughts, Stu?
They've set the benchmark, haven't they? And I don't think they'll be allowed now to let the standards drop. They've got into the season slowly, but yesterday answered a lot of questions, not just from us or from the media, but from them internally. And to know, that's what I just mentioned before, when they went to the change room, they've looked at each and every one around them, and there would have been a brothers in arms, and the feeling they've got, for me, it's a simple team talk for next week. You come in at the end of this game, whether it be 5 o'clock, this is 5:30 kickoff, isn't it? So if you're in here at 7:30 with the same feeling, we'll come away from Goodison Park with 3 points, and we should. And I'll use my old sentence, like, how many Everton players would get in our team? And the answer's not many. So we've got a squad there where we can look at their strengths and we can nullify them. It's not just a case of we've only got 11, 12, 13 players to choose from. We have 18 players, I would say, capable of starting for Newcastle, and Eddie Howe can now pick a team to match the opposition. But I think now the team is starting to pick itself in the right way. I think the defence, if he's going to change anything, I think it might be Livramento for Trippier, just due to the pace that Everton will pose on the wing, and it'll give Trippier a rest, and then he can come on. If he's fit, will quite obviously walk straight back to the team. But I think the midfield three, they've shown that that's their position and it's there to lose now. But I'm sure they'll get told, you perform like that and you've got that shirt every week. And if you don't, you've got people champing at the bit to get in. And this is what we've been waiting for. So I genuinely believe yesterday is a springboard to our future. And they can afford to rest players on Tuesday night and still come away with a comfortable victory. So the main focus for Newcastle United, irrespective of Eddie Howe saying the next game is the most important one, he should go into Tuesday with an eye on Saturday, and Saturday will be that's the team I want to pick, and on Tuesday I can pick these people and rest the people that he needs to rest and give the squad a good run out. So if someone is called on, it's not like they haven't played for 4 or 5 games, and this is where you need the people like Kraft and Longstaff and even Osula to get games. Give them minutes, because you never know when they will be needed. And to go back to the original question, will we go to Everton and win? I honestly expect us to, and I think it'll be a lot easier than what it did. And yes, it was nice that Palace got beat. They seem to become the pantomime villain against us now, because the way the chairman went on during that saga with the defender we were trying to sign. But he hasn't covered himself in glory either since then, so it could be his head's turning. He's not happy. But it seems now that from our perspective, and that's what we've got to look at, Everton, that 3 points that they got yesterday is massive for them. And you're probably right, Steve, had they lost yesterday, they'll always seem to raise the game against us anyway. But because they've got the win, there won't be as much pressure. They're not sitting at the bottom now. So they'll come into us in a bit more relaxed mood, and they could play it straight in our hands. Because if we play with the same intensity as we did yesterday, we'll wipe the floor with them.
Yeah, I would agree. Mitch, I mean, the same kind of intensity is sometimes difficult to find. I mean, and you sometimes do feel, you can raise your games against the bigger teams. Newcastle's record, in fact, would probably be testament to that. In a thing that Spenny sent us today. I'm sure he probably sent it to you lads as well. But we've had some great results over the course of Eddie Howe's reign as Newcastle manager there, and not many red L's in there. Draws, wins against the likes of Manchester City, Liverpool, Chelsea, Arsenal as well. So Newcastle's record against the top teams has been good. So you've got to hope that they can take that kind of intensity when they play away from home at Everton.
We historically always had the ability to lower our game to the standard of our opponent, didn't we? And I think that's something I would like to hope has changed now. We've set our own bar. The players and the manager have set our own bar now, and they know they've got to hit that week in, week out. Again, picking up on comments made by players before and after the game in interviews about this week's being quote unquote one of them weeks in training. And I'm sure that they understand that the intensity's got to be there, both on and off the pitch, to keep that consistent level of attitude. And if we do have that level of attitude and that consistent will to win, there's not many teams can live with them, home or away. No. And that might sound arrogant. That's just how I see it. I look at this game of Man U and Spurs at the minute, and we've already beaten Spurs, and Man U look poor. We should be able to hit that level of consistency every time, and we should be getting results wherever we go. We should have no fear.
Yeah, 767 watching live tonight, despite the match being on. 300 of you on YouTube, which is great, which means there's over 400 watching on Twitter. Please jump onto YouTube, search NUFC Matters, hit the subscribe button. We do 7 shows a week, and your support would be gratefully received. It is free of charge to subscribe. David Baird says, question for the lads. Do you think there is anything in it about Rubens owning the arena concerning the future of the new stadium? I don't think so, David, and I don't think that the lads will disagree with us on that, Stu.
No, absolutely not. There's been so many studies done, and that land at the arena is not big enough for what the intentions would be for a new stadium. And I think it's quite clear the area they've got earmarked if and when they do announce a new stadium, and it'll be Leazes Park Road. That's quite obvious.
Yeah, Mitch, same.
Yeah, I mean, I think they've already the arena land's already been discussed in a number of different situations by a number of different individuals, and I think it's pretty clear it doesn't really come into the equation for what we eventually want, and therefore I think it's an area of land we can dismiss going forward.
Yeah, Mitch, how did your all-you-can-eat and drink for 50 session go?
Not much eating.
Well, yeah, eating's cheating, mainly. I paid the extra 49 dirhams for the Guinness upgrade, so I had a fantastic day. Thank you very much.
The Guinness upgrade. I love it. Terry says, should we be concerned about the news of Amanda getting the Saudis to invest in Spurs, Stu? It's interesting that this is reared its head again when there was lots of rumours flying around in the ethos about Amanda potentially coming back to Newcastle last week, and all of that was doing the rounds behind the scenes, that she was going to be flying in, she was going to be having a meeting and this, that and the other. That hasn't come to anything, but now the mirror's linking her with Spurs again, aren't they? So I mean, somewhere in the middle is the truth, Stu.
Did Newcastle have a good result yesterday?
Yes.
So there you go. What happens now is let's do something to destabilise that. We can't have Newcastle getting praise. But no, I mentioned it last week regarding Amanda. But I mean, I've got to be careful how I word certain things. Whether she was a preferred choice or not, I believe they had a meeting and it didn't go as well as anticipated, shall we say. But this thing with the Saudis and Spurs, it's not the Saudis, it's people who work with Saudis. And I won't mention names, but the guy is one of, if not the richest man from India, and that's the link she's got, and that's her job. She brokers big deals ultimately. So if she's not going to be employed by us, or maybe she looked at that and think I can make more money out of using this guy's potential to invest into a club than being with Newcastle full time. Irrespective of what happens on that front, and whoever replaces Darren Eales as CEO, I don't think there's any Newcastle fan would be bitter if Amanda got involved with another club in the Premier League or any league. You know, what she's done for us is above and beyond, and she should be void of any reproach. So, you know, I can't believe you went to work with that team or that team. It might not just be Tottenham. There's other clubs looking for investment. You know, there's a bit of friction at Chelsea. So if Bowley wants to buy it out, he hasn't got the funds. He might need the back, and there's so many things she can do. But she does broker big deals, and that's her job. So what the Mirror did is just recycle their own story. So there'll be truth in it. How relevant it is and how up to date it is open to debate. But for me, I think, and I don't want to speak on anyone else's behalf, but I don't think I'll meet a Newcastle fan that's not grateful for the efforts Amanda Safely put in to make sure this takeover happened.
Same again, Mitch, from you, I guess. Just on Amanda. And
sorry, Steve, I didn't hear that.
Just on Amanda, just your views on Amanda being linked with Tottenham now.
No, you're coming through like a Dalek, mate.
All right.
I don't know if it's my connection.
What's your thoughts on Amanda links with Tottenham?
Well, my dad was at Chelsea yesterday. There's a picture of him at Chelsea in the box. There's not been much made of that, has there? You know, it's so... Of course, they've got friends in the football world based out of what they've done.
That's why I mentioned Chelsea in my bit, but they live around the corner from Chelsea's ground.
Exactly. You know, and you're right. What Stu says, you know, that's the world they're in. The individual that they're talking about is an exceptionally wealthy individual, but Indian ownership at football clubs hasn't been a good track record so far. So I wouldn't be getting excited about that, you know. So, and they have jobs to do and coin to earn, and so why get upset about it? One thing for sure, like Stu rightly says, and he said this last week, are Newcastle playing well and they're threatening the top four again? Oh, there's a story that's negative. There's a story to unsettle them. That's what it is. It's white noise, and just ignore it.
Yeah, exactly. I would agree. Hopefully the sound issue is a bit better. Blue Rhythm Boy asked earlier, he says, Grealish lost me with his Almiron comments. He says, speaking of whom, do the professionals feel that Murphy going above Miggy in the pecking order is the right call? I suppose after yesterday, we have to say yes. But yeah, it's quite a notable jump above Miggy, isn't it, Stu? Murphy has been, you know, in the driving seat in that position.
I believe he is above him in the pecking order, and quite clearly, if you look at the minutes they both had this season, so does Eddie Howe believe that as well. The thing that Murphy offers, I mean, they'll both give you honest endeavour and chasing back and running around, but you know, you could employ Sally Gunnell to do some running. You know that it's what they do with the ball, and an advantage that Murphy's got is we've seen it a couple of times, especially in the first half. He can deliver across with the right foot. And if he needs to cut in, he can do that and then lay it off to someone else who can put the ball in. Miggy, for me, he had that purple spell when he was exceptional, but he's been found out and he is one-dimensional, where Murphy does offer something different, and we need that. We needed the width yesterday, and I thought Murphy was the right call because he does offer width, and he's not scared to take a fullback on, and he can whip a good ball in. Believe me, because I think if Isaac was playing yesterday, he would have scored two. That's not a detriment to Anthony Gordon, who I thought did a sterling job yesterday. But it's the perception and the awareness that someone natural at position would show. Like if Wilson was playing yesterday, he would have anticipated those crosses coming in, and I think he would have got at the end of at least one of them. So what Murphy offers, teamwork-wise, is probably similar to what Miggy does. But the end product that Murphy can do puts him, for me, above Miggy in the pecking order.
What about you, Mitch? What's your feelings on Murphy and Miggy? I think it's obvious that Murphy's got the nod at the moment.
Not really much more to add, other than I think Murphy has developed physically again, and he has a bit more physicality. He's got a little bit more pace than Miggy. And like I said earlier, yesterday, he was obviously told, get a ball in early, and he will do that because he's right-footed and he'll cross from the right. Whereas Miggy will always slow it down and come back on his left. And so I think that fits with what Eddie was trying to do. I still think Eddie's sometimes going to be horses for courses. You might say Miggy brought in for certain games. You know, if they see a vulnerability with the left back who doesn't like being taken inside, for example. You know, the way Barnes, when he scored his fantastic goal the other week, you know, when he come inside, that was a fullback who didn't like being taken inside. And you could see he was desperate to palm Barnes off to another defender at any point he could, and that's how Barnes got the space to get the shot in. But generally, I think Murphy does seem to be on the top of the pecking order, and he's worked hard to get that. I think that's what he's getting, is recognition of the hard work he's put in, even physically, if you compare him to his twin brother. You know, it's like comparing the flyweight to a welterweight boxer. You know, it's really different. But he's earned that at the end of the day.
Yeah, Murphy often too slow to release the ball, but does give 100%. Love Miggy, says Denise, but Murphy, you can see he watches where the activity is and he puts the ball into that area and on the spot. And Gary says Murphy's put some great balls in yesterday. An instinctive striker would have been on the end of him. Yeah, and I agree. I think we would have been out of sight, quite frankly, if a fully fit Callum Wilson or Isaac had been playing yesterday. I've got to be perfectly honest. Mark Byers, thank you for ordering the book, first of all, Mark. And William Hales as well. Big thank you for ordering the Entertainers book whilst we're on air. He says, lads, what's happened at the semi-automated offsides we were promised after the last international break? I haven't seen it used in any televised game that I've watched. I've got no idea, Mark, is the honest answer. Maybe the technology isn't ready yet or something. But either of you got any idea?
The technology is already there, but I could be a bit sarcastic with the answer. And perhaps Liverpool and Manchester United haven't given Masters the green light to introduce it as yet. There's no reason why it shouldn't be. I know they need extra cameras and things like that, but in this day and age, with the money swilling around the Premier League, they should have it.
3-0. Solanke's just scored, lads.
Oh, fantastic. That is fantastic.
Sorry.
The thing is, they should have it, but for me, it should have been introduced at the start of the season, not midway through a season or partially into a season. And I just wanted to say one last thing. The difference with Miggy and Murphy is Murphy will play with his head up, and he's more aware of what's going on around him, where Miggy will just have his head down, and that's something that makes a big difference, especially against Manchester City when we're talking about the ball retention is so important, and that's why he would have got the nod in front of him yesterday, even if we were both on long-term contracts.
Yeah, okay. Plenty of questions still to get through. Where do we go? There's a couple of them. Yeah, Lee Jones, I like this one. He says, question, was Sunderland surprised starting the Championship? Do you want to see them back in the Premiership for 6 easy points? I'd love to see them back in the Premier League. I really would, just for the derbies. I do enjoy the derbies. Win, lose, or draw. It's always a great atmosphere. I love the build-up. So I would like to see them back. Stu, would you like to see Sunderland back in the Premier League?
You get caught between a rock and a hard place. I'd like to see them fall into oblivion, but then you start thinking, no, not really. And personally, I'm with you, Steve. I think it's good for the region. I'd like to see Middlesbrough back there as well. As long as we finish above both of them comfortably and beat them in every game, and they know their place, it's. I think let's have them back up. But I don't think that it's going to happen anytime soon. So I wouldn't get too worried about it. So any answer we give would just be hypothetical. So for the benefit of the question, yes, get Sunderland in the Premier League, but they are now light years behind us, and they know it. They know it as well. Yeah,
they do. Manchester United fans now starting to stream out of the Theatre of Dreams. It's probably because it's raining. They're probably going outside to keep dry. But yeah, would you like to see Sunderland back in the Premier League, Mitch?
I don't give a fuck about Sunderland, mate.
Thanks, mate. Great stuff. That's a good one for people to clip and share on YouTube. Riyadh Air is a question a couple of people have asked in the chat. Is it true Riyadh Air will be taking over Saudi as club's travel sponsor? Is there any more sponsor in the offing? Gary was asking the same question. Any news on the Riyadh Air commercial deal that looks like it's going to replace the Saudi Air deal? Stu, anything out there that you've heard?
As I understand it, the Saudi deal was a temporary one, so I believe it finishes this season anyway. In Riyadh Air, this is what, for those who are probably bored of me and Mitch talking about associated party transactions and waiting to see what happens, Riyadh Air is going to be it's basically it's another Saudi airline, and it's going to be huge. They need to advertise, they need to spend. Their marketing budget will be in the billions. And I know Mitch mentioned, I think it was on Friday's show, about the effect of being associated with Newcastle United has had at noon on their profits in the UAE, which is the equivalent of Amazon. And it would make sense and it would be justifiable to put us on the front of the shirts, the same as Emirates are on AC Milan and Arsenal and Real Madrid. Why can't Riyadh Air go in front of Newcastle's shirt? Or a stadium or a training ground campus or whatever it is. It's for me, I can't say that there definitely will be, but I can't see why not. I think it would be highly likely. But again, we need to get this, what can they do, what can't they do? And I think with what Man City have done, there'll be less resistance if Newcastle come in with what would be perceived by certain red football teams as a inflated sponsorship. We can justify it, or they could justify it, that they need to come in, and they can't say, well, you're spending more money than you've earned as a new company. There's one thing that Mitch loves to remind us all of is the Chelsea sponsorship, which was, I think, was it 20 times more than their annual income? So make it make sense, as people say. And so could Riyadh Air sponsor Newcastle? Yes. Will they sponsor Newcastle? I don't want to say probably, but I'd say highly likely at some stage, whether it's front of the shirt, whether it's training ground, whether it's stadium, whether it's the stand, whether it's the training gear. But there's so many gaps left where Newcastle can fill in, and a lot of them are big gaps. The four things I've just mentioned there, like the front of the shirt sponsorship for the training, like the pre-match, and then the stadium or the stands, the training ground. These are the ones that they're waiting for. Well, I hope they're waiting for, and I hope this is where Peter Silverson's job should come easy, because these type of companies should be and probably are knocking on our door. We want to be associated with you, and the more successful we are on the pitch, the more we can justify the earnings of it, and then it just goes hand in hand. So, long answer to the question: will Riyadh Air sponsor us? I don't know. Will they? Highly likely.
Thoughts, Mitch?
I think down the line, when the APT stuff becomes clearer, it will be much easier to sort of bring things like this in. Like Stu says, that I wouldn't be surprised to see them sponsor her in some way. But one of the things that we seem to be doing with sponsors at the minute, and this would be another one that would be quite perfect, really, we seem to be bringing them in at one level and then managing them up. And that seems to be a way to get them to put more money in and sponsor in a bigger way, because there's less paperwork to do and there's fewer hoops to jump. So could they come in initially as, say, a travel partner and then be managed up to, say, training ground sponsor or training shirt sponsor? Very possibly. And that might be the way we do it.
Okay. Chelsea are going to sell their socks, according to Barry. He says for 386 million and loan them back to the club.
Right.
Nothing would surprise us, Barry. I've got to be perfectly honest. What else have we got in the chat? We've got a couple of other questions. Yes, David McLeod. He says, do you think, guys, that PSR will be changed to incorporate bigger squads, Champions League getting a shed load more games? I mean, a lot depends with all of this on what happens with Man City. And as I mentioned at the top of the programme, watch the Amigos from about an hour in from Friday and listen to what Keith says. Haven't really had your opinion on all of that. Stu, what did you make of what Keith had to say on Friday?
I mentioned it on my show, and I messaged Keith after the show, and again yesterday. I thought it was exceptional, and I was speaking to he today, and what he said was He thought it was brilliant the way Keith explained it in layman's terms. But, and I'm still now thinking about this Riyadh Air thing. Do you think the Premier League's got the heart, the desire, or the money to fight Newcastle if they put in a big sponsorship? Because they can't disprove this. Because the marketing budget for Riyadh Air, you're talking millions and millions of pounds, dirhams, reals, dollars, whichever currency you want to use. It's massive. And if the Premier League keeps saying we're the most watched league in the world, why can't someone want to sponsor one of the top teams of the most watched league in the world, especially one that's got Saudi ownership? So it's a win-win for them. And it does make sense. The more you think about it, it does make sense. So sorry, I know I drifted from one question to that, but I wanted to add that to the previous question.
Yeah, okay, no worries. We've got lots of questions. We'll not get through them all, so apologies for those that we do miss. Sam, let's get back to football. Mitch, you can take this one. He says, do we play the game without a recognised striker, or is Anthony Gordon considered a striker? I think Howe considers him a striker, doesn't he? He talked about this last season.
Made very clear by Howe's words, and I think was he not even make it again in the press conference before the game, that he views Anthony Gordon as number 3 striker, but says he's a very different mainline striker to Isaac and Wilson. So for me, that says it all. He's viewed as a third line leader. Whether we agree with it or like it or not, that's how he views it.
I tend to disagree, Mitch. I think he's kidology. He's saying it for the benefit because there isn't another option, and it's bigging Gordon up to say, we know you can play this role. He knows Gordon's a winger, and Gordon prefers to be a winger.
Maybe.
Okay. Yes, Mount is out for the count. He's gone off with a split head. So that's another downer for Manchester United in their game. It's the rain comes down at Old Trafford. A couple of minutes left, and Ten Hag's napper is wet as I've seen it. Is he getting sacked in the morning? I doubt it. I don't think they can afford to sack him. Yvonne says, Eddie's come into some criticism from some section of the fans, not me. But talk about England and now Manchester United after him. What are your thoughts on that? I'll give you my thoughts, Yvonne. Quite simple, and Stu's already mentioned it tonight. The headlines will always come out and try and unsettle Newcastle, especially after we've had a good result. So I do laugh when fans criticise Eddie Howe. I think anyone who watches NUFC Matters knows that this is as big a Eddie Howe fan club as you'll see in the Strawberry Corner. And the fans who go home and away. I've never heard anyone having a go at Eddie Howe that I know, whether I've been out and about in bars, whether I've been on here. I think one or two people maybe. Some rogue chatters occasionally you've come in and had a pop at Eddie Howe, but Eddie Howe is our manager. I would have no complaints if Eddie Howe signed a new contract. I've got to be perfectly honest, because the guy's worked miracles in his first few years, and long may it continue. It would take somebody special to take over from him, that's for certain, Stu.
Yeah, but you think about it, right? Eddie Howe linked with the England job. He's getting linked with the Man United job. He was linked with the Liverpool job. He's seen as the replacement for Pep Guardiola. All of that points to we've got an exceptional manager, and we should cherish that. And it seems to be any internal struggles, he's come out on top. Because, mark my words, if Eddie Howe was to leave that club, then we might as well go back 3 years and start again. Because the players that have bought into his ethos would probably want to leave as well. And yes, we've got a great manager. And I'll give you 2 words of why Eddie Howe will not go to Man United. Dan Ashworth. So it was quite clear they didn't get on. So why would he follow him to there? And I think Howe was scathing in his criticism for his lack of loyalty and jumping ship the way he did. And I think Eddie Howe is far too an honest person to follow suit. And for those who have read the fanzine that has been dropped on people's doorsteps over the last couple of days, a lot of the article I written was in praise of Eddie Howe. So yeah, I want him to stay for as long as he's got the same desire and energy to push Newcastle as far as they can go. We've got him. Others want him. That shows we've got something good, and he's happy where he is. He's nowhere near finished his body of work with us, and that's good news.
Yeah, he's not going anywhere, but I don't think. And but, you know, there has been a period of uncertainty because of the England job, and you know, media constantly linking him with a move. And I've not seen the Manchester United link, but I think Stu makes a valid point there, Mitch. He's not going to go and see Dan Ashworth there.
Don't see that happening in a hurry. He talked very much post-match about unity and coming together and galvanisation, and you don't use words like that if you're in the back of your mind's thinking, right, I'm off next week. So, you know, I think it's all very positive and focused on Newcastle United and the betterment of everything at Newcastle United, and we've seen the result of that this week.
Yeah, we certainly have. Plenty pink seats at Old Trafford. Must be like a trip back to London for the Man United fans. Yeah, it certainly is. Almost 4-0 there. Solanke's saved. Another chance saved by Onana. But yeah, the Manchester United fans soaking wet, look sick as chips.
Steve, just on anyhow, and you know, there's only a small section of mischief makers in the fan base, and most of them are unnamed accounts on Twitter. But realistically, who would we get that could do a better job? Who's available that we could sign as a manager to take that squad further than what he's got? Because I think he's rinsed every bit out of that squad to get us to where we are. And I just hope I expect him to be given the opportunity, but I'm looking forward to the opportunity where he gets even higher standard of players to work with and integrate them into that team and take us to the next level, because we're very close to it. We're very close to the next level.
Yep, certainly are. Good question that we got earlier. Did I save it or not? Somebody, I can't remember who it was. I haven't saved it, but unfortunately it's gone. But I know the question was simple. Where do you rate Howe in with these three managers? Kevin Keegan, Sir Bobby Robson, and Eddie Howe. That would be the way I would rank them. Kevin Keegan first, Sir Bobby Robson second, and Eddie Howe third for me at the moment. Simply because Eddie's still a work in progress, and I think KK and Eddie Howe have done the similar job. Both of them have kept Newcastle United up. Dare I say, Keegan's was probably a damn sight harder in terms of the team that he inherited. But Keegan then, you know, changed the whole ethos of the club, got us promotion, wonderful promotion, and got us back into the Premier League, got us into Europe again, and you know, almost won the league. So, you know, for me, Kevin Keegan is a country mile ahead. I think Sir Bobby Robson, you know, came in and you know, was superb, rebuilt the team, you know, again took us from the bottom of the division and got us back into, you know, into Europe. You know, and I think a similar style to Kevin Keegan, and he regalvanated Alan Shearer. Alan Shearer, who was at one point set to leave Newcastle, would never have broken the record, the club goal scoring record, had it not been for Sir Bobby Robson having the wisdom to change the way he played. So I genuinely think that the top two should be still Kevin Keegan and Sir Bobby Robson, and Eddie Howe third. If you didn't give us those options, of course, although I never saw his teams play, I do know my history. The top three for me would be Joe Harvey, Kevin Keegan, and Sir Bobby Robson, and then Eddie Howe. Eddie Howe can change it all, of course, by winning something. But just with those three, Stu, KK, Sir Bobby, and Eddie Howe, what's your top three?
Well, we're off an age where we can get all misty-eyed and nostalgic regarding Keegan. And I don't think what he achieved will ever be repeated. Maybe that's with the financial fair play restrictions or whatever. But for me, Keegan, I agree with you. What he did and what he achieved, he got us all to believe again. And if you remember watching the games before then, it was a sense of duty rather than anything else. And he ignited the whole city. He got the whole country to fall in love with Newcastle United. And the only mark against him was we never won something. But such an enjoyable time, and for me, the only time anyone will challenge Keegan is when they win a trophy. But as you mentioned there, Steve, look at the squad that Keegan inherited that kept us up and stopped us getting relegated to the old third division. and then that promotion season, then our first year in the Premier League, the memories that'll last. For me, disagreeing with you, I would put Eddie Howe second to that. I think the team in the position they were when he took over, the lack of talent in the squad, the lack of leadership in the squad, the lack of the willingness to go the extra mile in the squad. And I know Mitch and I have mentioned it many times, especially at the time when he was doing his tests, the players were only at 60% of the level fitness-wise that they should have been. And I think it's remarkable. Yes, he was allowed to spend money in his first window, but look what he did. He didn't go out and get the superstars that everyone was linked with, and all these experts, you know, on TalkSport, the Simon Jordan. I recall him at the time saying Newcastle could spend 600 million and not get touched. To this date, they still haven't spent 600 million and been hampered by financial fair play. Bobby Robson inherited a team with Shearers and Solanos and Speeds, and, you know, Gibbon and goal. He inherited a better squad, but what he did, he shook out all the bad habits. He picked them up, and he gave them what Eddie Howe's just done to Anthony Gordon. He gave them a cuddle, made them believe in themselves again. But I think achievements on the pitch, and again, it's just my personal opinion, I think Eddie Howe's already surpassed what Sir Bobby Robson did for Newcastle. Not what Sir Bobby Robson achieved in his managerial career, but if we look at his time in Newcastle versus Eddie Howe's time, I think Eddie Howe's already nudged ahead of him, and he's got the scope, obviously, to go even further ahead. But that's just my opinion.
Blue Rhythm Boy said, had Dalglish won the FA Cup, would he be top? I think if Dalglish had more luck, Blue Rhythm Boy, we would have won the league and the FA Cup with Dalglish. I think if Alan Shearer hadn't been injured and John Dahl Thomason had Alan Shearer to learn from, and Newcastle hadn't sold Les Ferdinand and
Shearer. Sorry, Steve. Dalglish didn't want to sell Ferdinand. You know that personally, and I know that he didn't want to sell him. And that was a board decision.
But I think the problem was always, this is going off complete tangent, but I genuinely think with Kenny Dalglish, he just didn't get the look. He was always up against it, and following in Kevin Keegan's footsteps, anybody following in Keegan's footsteps was always going to find it hard. But that's for a different show. Mitch, just the Keegan, Bobby Robson, Eddie Howe. How would you place the top three?
I think it's difficult because Howe's, like you say, still a work in progress, and I think let's see what our thoughts are once Eddie does reach the end of his tenure, because he certainly, we're 90 minutes away from picking up a League Cup, which would have been the first thing we'd done in years, and I think that would change a lot of people's opinion straight away. Dalglish certainly had his sliding doors moment with that injury to Shearer, amongst other things, and so you certainly had he picked that FA Cup up, maybe he would have talked different about what Dalglish did and didn't do. He gets criticism for certain things, but people forget a lot of the things he had to rebuild while he was there. And then Sir Bobby, yes, I mean, historically, when you look at everything he did, but again, he had a couple of sliding doors moments at Newcastle where things could have gone differently. I wish he'd been able to see in a crystal ball what was going to happen to him at Barcelona, and that he'd come in straight after Keegan. I think that then would have been a different conversation again. So, there's all these things that we could talk about. It's difficult for me not to rank them that same way, particularly from my memories of the Keegan managerial era. Then going through that great escape and then the miraculous rise of the entertainers after that was just, special times. But Eddie could certainly be seen to have done the similar kind of thing. Let's see what this season brings.
Yep, 100%. Ian says Casemiro was class when he came on, changed the game. Yeah, he looks like he should be in the heavyweight boxing game, not football these days. Like he really is. He's piled the beef on Casemiro. But yeah, Manchester United losing 3-0. 10-man Manchester United, does have to be said. And Spurs very happy with their afternoon's work. Quick prediction then for Tuesday night, Newcastle's cup game against Wimbledon. How do you see that one going, Stu? And team selection, it'll be a mixed bag going at C84. Did ask us earlier what team we thought would play. I think you also shared his team. There we go. Dubravka, Tino, Kelly, Shaw. Trippier is going to be out, so Trippier won't play. It's already been confirmed. Tonali, Willock, Longstaff, Miggy, Barnes, Asula would be mine just off the top of my head. But yeah, Trippier out on Tuesday night. That's been confirmed.
I would keep that team on there, Steve, so I can compare it. I think you'll play Kraft instead of Shaw. I think he needs to be rested. You will need some leadership in there. Quite clearly you're going to have Willock, Longstaff plus one of the other midfielders. They might even give Tonali a start and then bring Joe Linton on for the second half or something like that. For me, Asula would start. That's not far off it, but prediction for the score, I'll go exactly what I said last week after we got beat off Fulham. I think we'll win 5-0.
Mitch?
I think 4-1, comfortable, but Wimbledon will have that moment.
Okay, thank you for watching tonight. Great show. Please, when you get off the online stream, get yourself onto the website. Go and book the book. The Entertainers, 92-97, Kevin Keegan's Legacy, NewcastleLegends.com. Buy your copy today. Help us raise £1,000 for Dementia Matters. Thanks, lads, and I will see you soon. Take care.
Thanks, everyone.
Yes, everyone.